It's very clear that Justin Trudeau, yet again, has learned nothing from the so-called consultations.
Tonight, an unclear future for Indigenous hunters as the Liberals revamp gun legislation.
Close to 100% of everything we're testing is coming back positive for fentanyl.
A powerful new detection tool at safe consumption sites in Saskatoon. And dancing in the family, a pint-sized jigger captures hearts. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. RCMP in Manitoba are searching for an inmate who escaped from the provincial jail in the Paw on Monday evening. 3 inmates initially escaped, but 2 have been caught and returned to custody. According to RCMP, Kelly John Castell is still at large and considered dangerous to the public. He was last seen at 6:40 p.m. on Monday when he fled the correctional center on foot with 2 other inmates. An emergency alert was issued late Monday night advising residents of the Paw and Flin Flon to lock all doors and windows and to report anything suspicious immediately to the RCMP. Alberta RCMP have lifted an order to stay inside for the Musqueam and parts of Ponoka County after 30-year-old Zachary Dylan Littlechild was apprehended yesterday. A stay-at-home order was issued on Sunday as RCMP from several detachments were looking for Littlechild, who is considered armed and dangerous. Police have not indicated what Littlechild was wanted for and will have more details when charges are filed. Search efforts are continuing for a missing Kaska woman in the Yukon. The 40-year-old woman was last seen in the Yukon community of Ross River on April 21st. Now she's the center of a missing person investigation. Sarah Connors has more.
Ramona Peters' face is everywhere in Whitehorse. Her disappearance is raising concern for many across the territory. Her auntie Lorraine Steria is one of them. She feels more could be done by the RCMP to look for her niece, like calling in the Canadian Rangers.
I think they have the resources to do more. I don't understand why they're not doing more.
We've been making a lot of effort to try and locate her.
The RCMP are deploying things like Yukon Search and Rescue, aerial patrols, and police dog services in Ross River. But more information is needed before they can deploy additional resources.
We understand it's frustrating for the family. You know, their family member is missing. They want them found.
The RCMP says the search is challenging because of the large search site, rough terrain, and late starting point.
At this point, we have not had any positive sightings or any information of her since the 21st.
A $10,000 reward is available for any information leading to Peter's whereabouts. All Steria wants is for her niece to come home safe and sound.
Call somebody, let us know that you are okay, and we'll help to bring you home. We love you.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
And anyone with information on Ramona Peters' whereabouts is urged to contact the Yukon RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Rains have helped slow down the spread of many wildfires in Alberta, but that's not the case at the Little Red River Cree Nation in northern Alberta. It is one of 24 wildfires still burning out of control across the province as fires displaced over 30,000 residents across Alberta. With temperatures and dry conditions returning at the end of the week, the outlook is not good. Little Red River Cree Nation has already lost many homes.
Everybody's been evacuated, nobody's been hurt. We don't know the exact numbers with respect to how many houses were lost and where and what they are exactly. We just know, given the last update we had from Alberta Fire Management, which was 3 days ago, was 44 structures lost. However, since that time, there's been an active fire ongoing, right? So that number is going to increase.
If you're being affected by the fire situation, we'd like to hear from you. Here's how you can get in touch. You can send us your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on our website. That's aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Manitoba is collecting health information no other province is gathering. It's compiling data based on patient race and ethnicity to find any gaps in healthcare and improve outcomes. Our friends at CTV Winnipeg have this.
We know from plenty of research evidence that people don't receive the same healthcare quality, and there are differences that can be demonstrated by race, ethnicity, and Indigenous identity.
Starting May 11th, patients seeking care at Manitoba hospitals will be asked questions about their race and ethnic identity. Dr. Marcia Anderson was the public health lead for Manitoba's First Nation pandemic response. The data generated through the new initiative is a key element in ensuring healthcare is delivered more equitably, especially where Black and Indigenous residents are concerned.
You know, they say what gets measured gets done. If we have the data to highlight and show a gap, that's when we can take meaningful action and make sure that we're working to close those gaps.
Hospital staff are required to ask the questions, but responding is voluntary. Anderson is reassuring patients their privacy will be protected and the pool of responses will be valuable in the quest to improve health care for all. Manitoba is the first province in Canada to collect the data, although other provinces are considering similar measures. Time to step aside for a quick break. Still to come, new shelter funding announced for victims of family and gender-based violence.
It'll give Indigenous women, children, and 2S LGBTQI plus people an opportunity to live in a community that they know and love.
Welcome back. The Liberals are moving ahead on a revamp on their Bill C-21 gun legislation, but the debate continues on the controversial bill, and what it will mean for Indigenous hunters remains unclear. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
NDP Nunavut MP Lori Idlout says she is willing to give an amended Bill C-21 a chance.
We'll keep monitoring what's going on. I understand that the hearings will take us into the fall, so the NDP will be there to make sure we really are continuing to fight for Indigenous people's rights.
Earlier this year, the NDP spoke out against Liberal amendments to the legislation that would have banned a number of shotguns and rifles, including those used by Indigenous hunters. But after the Liberals withdrew these amendments, the party believes the legislation is back on track.
We've helped to make sure that we're refocusing what the intent of C-21 was, which is to fight gang violence in urban centers, focusing on handguns and military-style weapons.
Earlier this month, the Trudeau government announced a number of changes to Bill C-21, including the new legislation will be on a go-forward basis only and not apply to existing guns on the market. The Canadian Firearms Advisory Committee is being re-established to classify existing firearms, and Section 35 Indigenous rights are recognized in the bill. But conservatives say Indigenous hunters are still in the same amount of danger of having their guns seized as before.
It's very clear that Justin Trudeau, yet again, has learned nothing from the so-called consultations that his cabinet has done over the last few months, and this is another attack on hunting rifles and another thing that he's doing to show that he's coming for hunting rifles and he's not going to stop.
And the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights agrees the revamped legislation is a step back, not forward.
The minister and the rest of the Liberals have decided, well, we're not going to ban these guns now. We're going to form a committee, the Canadian Firearms Advisory Committee, and they will come up with lists of guns to ban that we haven't banned in the future, and they have committed to banning them by order in council like they did back in May 2020. So the reason why that's possibly worse is because there's no criteria that we know the committee's getting.
Natalie Provo is a survivor of the 1989 Ecole Polytechnique shooting and a spokesperson for the group, Policy Souvien. She is not pleased with the proposed legislation either. Provost says Bill C-21 will do nothing to stop high-powered assault rifles from falling into the wrong hands.
The list is not complete, and the definition applies only to new models, and the definition is based on the concept of design for high-capacity magazine. And for us, it's too weak.
The government says it will appoint a firearms advisory committee within 60 days. This committee will recommend which firearms are eventually banned. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Still in Ottawa, the Trudeau government announced $103 million in funding Monday morning. It'll go towards new shelter spaces for Indigenous people who are the victims of family and gender-based violence. Housing Minister Ahmed Hussein made the announcement Monday morning in Ottawa. He said the funding will go toward 178 new shelter spaces in 21 communities across the country. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation will provide $81 million for construction, with Indigenous Services providing the other $22 million for operational costs. The minister outlined the importance of the new units.
It'll give Indigenous women, children, and 2S LGBTQI plus people an opportunity to live in a community that they know and love, to have a safe and a stable home, and to literally have a fresh start in life. These new Indigenous-led projects will offer survivors of family and gender-based violence access to culturally appropriate services that will aid in their journey of healing.
Harm reduction agencies in Saskatoon and Regina now have a way to help determine what may be in drugs people are using. The Saskatchewan government has provided funding for drug testing devices known as spectrometers. APTN's Leanne Sanders has more.
Kayla DeMong says workers at the Safe Consumption site in Saskatoon can now use spectrometers to see what's in the crystal meth and other drugs being consumed on the streets.
What people think they are getting is not always true, and the risk of fentanyl being in substances is incredibly common. Close to 100% of everything we're testing is coming back positive for fentanyl.
She says substance users are very concerned about what they are consuming.
Having this machine on site in the Safe Consumption site is just another tool that allows our staff to provide education to people and lessen the risk of drug poisoning happening.
According to the Saskatchewan Coroner's Service, there were 421 confirmed and suspected drug toxicity deaths in 2022, up from 410 deaths in 2021. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Senate Committee on Indigenous Peoples is currently studying Bill C-29. It proposes to establish a National Council on Reconciliation. And today another witness told the committee there are groups not being consulted on creating the new National Council. Mandy Gulmasti is Grand Chief of the Grand Council of the Crees. She said not every nation is represented by the three national bodies, and that the Grand Council is being left out of consultations. Gulmasti said the process needs to be inclusive of all nations and groups, including elders and youth.
It is probably one of the most challenging jobs to put a 20-year-old in charge of identifying the needs of its youth population, especially considering, the things that they are going through. But I think that that's a lens that needs to be part of this discussion. So I would like to see the representation of specific youth appointees as well as elder appointees. You do need that wisdom, you do need that guidance to be at the table to give you those gentle reminders.
Winnipeg's third annual MMIWG2S Walk for Justice took place on Friday as part of Red Dress Day. Sav Jonesa met with some of the marchers to hear about how their first-hand experiences motivated them to join the hundreds who came out in support.
A sea of red washed over downtown Winnipeg. Supporters marched to show they're not alone in their calls for answers. Cambria Harris was a co-organizer for the event. Her mother is one of 4 women who were victims of an alleged serial killer this past year.
It saddens me because, it's been a year since my mother, Morgan, went missing and was murdered as well. And, she still remains in the bottom of a landfill as well as one other woman. And, I'm here fighting for justice for all MMIWG2S families and Buffalo woman too, who still remains unidentified, and that's a large part of it.
She's advocated for an extensive landfill search after multiple women's remains were found and more are believed to be hidden at Winnipeg's landfill sites. She says society needs to do better at protecting Indigenous people from harm.
Us gathering in numbers is important because it sends a message that we're still here and that, we're not disposable and we're always going to be here, and, there's a time when this needs to end, and that time's now.
Indigenous women make up 24% of all female homicide victims in Canada, a number that has stayed consistent over the last decade. In 2021, Winnipeg had the highest number of Indigenous homicide victims compared to all other metropolitan areas in the country. Like many others, Carissa Chaput's reason for attending is a personal one.
I lived a lot of experiences with this and stuff, and I was human trafficked, I was held hostage. A lot of stuff happened to me, and I decided I wanted to walk for my women and make sure that they know that I care and that there's people here.
She says that though she's heartbroken for those who are missing or murdered, she's grateful for the community's support.
It's amazing. I never actually seen this much support in a really long time, so I'm actually surprised, and makes me really happy. It makes my heart feel really, really good to see this. It really does.
With a red handprint on her face to symbolize silenced voices, Kira Kimich remembers her aunt, Amber Gabosh, who went missing in 2010, only 5 days after her 20th birthday.
It's great having all this community around you, showing you love and support in these hard times, because it's hard. It's terrible going every day wondering, where is she? Nobody knows where she is. Nobody has anything. The last time we had information was 2014. It's 2023 now. That's a long time with nothing.
Kimich says that Indigenous women are not disposable, no matter who they are, where they come from, or what they do.
Even if you take one of our sisters, you do not stop them. Their voice is still here, their stories are still here, and their families are still here and searching. We're not going to stop.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Sav. Still to come, will lighten the mood. Jigging Baby in northern Quebec is lifting spirits. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And on her way home, Gail French could not help but stop and capture a wonderful picture of the skyline. Looks like there's a whole lot more green out in Gail's neck of the woods. Summer is getting closer though. If you have a great photo, you can send it to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 16 for Halifax, showers and 8 in St. John's. Sunny and 5 for Kuujjuaq, cloudy and 0 in Nain. 17 under sunny skies in Montreal, showers and 16 in Val-d'Or. 17 and sunny in Sault Ste. Marie, sun's out and 22 in North Bay. Showers and 18 for Thunder Bay, 21 with rain in Sioux Lookout. 18 and rain for God's Lake and Norway House. 22 in Winnipeg, 19 with rain for Dauphin. Showers and 19 in Regina, 20 with showers in Saskatoon. 22 with rain in Meadow Lake, 17 and rain in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, sun's out with 24 in High Level, 20 and sunny in Fort Chip. 21 with rain for Edmonton and Lethbridge. Sunny and 18 for Vancouver and Victoria, 20 in Kamloops. 20 with showers in Prince George, 19 and rain for Smithers. 11 in Old Crow, sunny and 17 for Whitehorse. sun's out, and 16 in Yellowknife, 18 for Norman Wells, -2 in Sachs Harbor, +3 for Pawlatuck. 3 above in Chesterfield, rain, and 5 in Whale Cove, -7 for Resolute, 3 below in Igloo Lake. Some big awards news now. Journalist Connie Walker from the Okonee First Nation in Saskatchewan is now a Pulitzer Prize winner. Her podcast, Stolen: Surviving St. Michael's, took home top honors for audio reporting. The investigative series produced by Gimlet Media was inspired by Walker's father's residential school experience. In a tweet, Walker said she was speechless and in shock about the incredible, overwhelming, and amazing news. Amazing indeed, Connie. Congrats to you and the team. A new episode of Face to Face is coming up in just a few minutes. Tonight, we're sitting down with Teresa Crow Spreading His Wings, the Executive Director of the Native Addictions Council of Manitoba. Like many who work on the front lines of addiction, she says Canada is experiencing an opioid and overdose crisis.
When NECM started, it was rooted in a problem with alcohol. But with the drugs and the increase of drugs, we see a lot more people using opioids and crack and meth and really hardcore drugs. And so to me, that's an indicator of people's pain and an indicator of a loss of people's way in life, that they're using stronger things and whatever they can get their hands on. So part of that is that opioid crisis. It's just you can find it anywhere and everywhere.
Well, we're almost out of time here today, and by this point, you might be in need of a little pick-me-up. How about dancing from a baby in northern Quebec? This Facebook video is being shared more than 7,000 times. 2.5-year-old Charlie Tukalak from Prouvenervitook, Quebec is giving a little kitchen floor jig. We're told his parents are dance competition winners, so he's got some natural skills. But as you can see, a little Nutella chocolate spread never hurts. Super cute stuff, Charlie, and a great place to leave it tonight. Of course, for more on anything you've seen here or news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And be sure to tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's when Daryl will be putting Indigenous art in focus. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Face to Face is next. Have a great night.